Welcome to Christy Uchuku's Brilliance TV show. This is the show that we do every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I can't get the words out. But anyway, I am super excited to be doing this show today. This is really a special show. Usually we talk about businesses on this show every Monday. But today, in light of everything that's been going on in the news about suicide and mental illness, I want to take this show and talk about something different. I want to talk about heart-to-heart conversation, which we usually don't talk about. And so I'm so delighted to be talking about it today with my friend Lawana Parker, who I will be introducing later. But before I do that, I just want to talk about the Women's Coaching Association that was launched this month. And I want you to be a part of it. So please do go to womenscoachingassociation.com, womenscoachingassociation.com, and you will find out all information about the Women's Coaching Association. But right now, I really want to take the time and give this platform to talk about suicide and mental illness. So I want to talk about today, it's really the title for today's topic is, wow, what if you knew me? If you knew me, what would it take? If you knew me, what would it take? I'll let you fill the blank. If you knew me, if I knew you, and what would it take for you to be you? Introducing my guest today, Lawana Parker. Lawana is a life coach, and she recently launched, as a matter of fact, today is the launch of her new show. And she's going to talk to us more about that. But I really want to dive deep into this conversation. And Lawana, please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, for those individuals that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about Lawana.
Well, Lawana Parker. I do a little bit of blogging. I do some coaching. More confidence and majority of elder women, 40 and over. Today, I did start the launch of my new radio show called The Courage to Live Your Dream. And it's all about you becoming, taking a new direction, having a new attitude, and becoming a new you as you build your confidence. So I'm excited about it. I couldn't believe it that it actually took off, but it did.
Wow, I love that new tagline. New direction, new attitude, and new you. New direction, new attitude, and new you. So we're just gonna dive deep into this conversation. And you are aware of what's been going on recently in the news about suicide, mental illness, and so on and so forth. So what is your take on the conversation? What is really your take on what's going on in the world? But before you say that, let me just talk about my situation that I rarely or probably haven't talked about it in its entirety on social platform, but I'm about to do so because hopefully it will help somebody. It was back in 2006. That's right, 2006, I lost my dad. That was in November 26th of 2006. I lost my dad. And, when people talk about depression, anxiety, at that point, I can't even tell you that I knew what it meant. I know I read about it, but not to the extent that that impacted me. And I remember getting the news. And I remember being in a car. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea where I was going. It was only by the grace of God that I didn't have a car accident. And if I had to look back now, I just wasn't really what I was trying to do. Perhaps I was trying not to have what happened be what it was, right? But I can't even tell you that I knew exactly what I was doing. I just knew that I got in a car, started driving on the freeway. I had no clue where I was going. I didn't even know how long I was driving until finally I received a phone call from a family member. That was the reason, really, I turned back. But even when I turned back, okay, I gathered myself, but I'm telling you, life for me for the next 18 months, life for me was totally different. And I guess I was shocked because number one, I didn't expect it. My dad was almost 90 years old when he died. And you would think for somebody who had lived a good life for 90 years, you should be celebrating, right? I don't know what it was about him. I knew I was very close, so close to my dad. Even though he lived far away from me, I'm so close to my dad that if my dad is having an illness, I will feel it before anybody else feels it. That's how close I was with my dad. And I just finished talking to him like probably not 2 hours after I finished talking to him. The next phone call I received that he died. It just didn't make sense. And I think what was so worse for me was the fact that a night before he passed away, I had woke up with a dream that that a relative was carrying his corpse. That was a dream. And knowing me that most of the time when I have dreams, for the most part, they come true. But you know, God has a way of taking it away from your mind so that you're not worried about it. I remember calling him up and crying on the phone. Yeah, a big girl like me, I was crying. I'm a I'm a daddy's girl, still a daddy's girl. So I was crying on the phone, telling him about the dream that I saw. I saw people carrying a casket, his casket. And I remember saying, what if anything happened to you now? I don't know what I will do. I love you so much. And those were the last words. And he said, I love you too. Nothing will happen to me. Come to find out that he too had a feeling that he wasn't gonna be here that long. But also told people not to let me know, right? Like I said, it was 2 hours later after I spoke to him. I received that phone call, that awful, dreaded phone call. I wasn't expecting. I can't say it's dreaded because it's like I wasn't expecting. And for me, it did something for me where I didn't even know. I, I don't know. I can't even tell you the state of mind that I was in at that particular time. I can't tell you the state of mind. And what's so bad about it is that I couldn't really express how I felt at that particular time. I was the oldest, so I had to put on the strong face and make sure if anybody listening, if you knew African um, burial, you knew it's very ceremonial, right? It's really the celebration of life for that person. I had to stay here, put on the strong face, arrange the funeral, and make sure everything went well. But then, when I came back to the United States of America, it was a different thing altogether. I'm telling you, for 18 months, I wallowed in pity. But thank God I had friends and family. But even they couldn't really protect me that much. They did the best that they could. I remember waking up in the morning, going to work. I would cry from from home, and immediately I was getting to my parking lot, I would stop crying, right? Because you're supposed to leave everything behind and step in and work. And really, my disruption was working because as long as I was working, I didn't have to think about anything. Immediately, I get off from work in my car, coming back home, the same thing. I mean, it was so bad. All I could just hope is I want it to be night so I can go to sleep. And if I'm not doing anything, I will sleep because I just don't want to. I don't want to think about it. Little did I know, they have intermittent depression. I come to find out later, it was really depression that I was going through, right? And I will cry so much. I will sleep. My God, and then don't let me watch TV and see a dad and children playing or talking like, oh, that reminds me everything. But that went on for 18 months. I got out of it because I had people that I was talking to. Like I said, I didn't even go to the hospital because I didn't know what was wrong with me, right? And really being around people that understand, for me, made a big difference. I get involved because I didn't want to watch too much. I was actually watching too much TV because that was a disruption for me. Watching TV was a disruption for me. And also, really going out. I had to force myself to go out because being by myself, meaning I have to think too much. But I'm with somebody else, with other people, I didn't have to think about it. And I know it probably is not your regular, that was temporary because of what I didn't expect that happened. But I also know that there are people going through what you call permanent depression, where life is miserable for them.
Mhm.
And oftentimes, they didn't even know what was going on. They don't know, even when they know what's going on, it's hard for them to talk about it. It's hard for them to talk about it because of the self-image, what other people will think about them. And so is anxiety. A lot of people live with anxiety, and you will never know. Only the people that live with them will know they are living with anxiety. You will never know. And these individuals suffer. Sometimes they do know what's wrong, but it's really that taboo that we have given mental illness, we have given depression, we have given anxiety. And so oftentimes, people, even when they know they are suffering from it, instead of going out and reaching out and getting some help, they will rather suffer in pain. And oftentimes, and I said it the other day, it really can be just an chemical imbalance in your body that can be taken care of. It can be taken care of whether you talk using homeopathic medication, whether you are seeing a doctor, whatever the case may be, just get help. But oftentimes, people don't get help, and oftentimes it leads to depression, it leads to suicide, it leads to just people being frustrated. The people around you gets it the worst. They really gets it the worst. I had an opportunity to read one of the books that was written by one of my friends, Gail Frick. I don't know whether you see this book. And in this book, really talked about living with anxiety. And not only does it affect her, it affects the people around her and what she had to do to get through living day by day. That there's help. There's a lot of help, but people sometimes, some of them don't know there's help, and some of them, even when they know there's help, it's hard for them to ask for help because of what people will say. And everybody loses: your friend, your family, and yourself, and the whole world, because now you cannot contribute and complete your assignment. Everybody loses because of your loss. Everybody loses, nobody gains. So let's dive into our conversation. Tell me, what do you think about this whole thing?
Yeah, it's sad what's happening. Um, I think in society today, because we're no longer close the way we used to be. And the result is that when somebody is feeling depressed, they're not sure who to talk to. You could share some information with someone, and before you know it, it might end up on Facebook or someplace that you don't want it. And so people tend to hold things to themselves, and that's too bad, because one of the things that causes depression to become as deep as it is the fact that you don't talk.
Mhm.
I mean, the other person doesn't have to say a word. Just listen and let them say the things that are bothering them. Don't judge them. Just listen. They'll indicate when they want you to respond, and let you know when they want some advice from you. But sometimes just listening can make a big difference in the other individual.
I'm so glad you brought up that point, listening. And the society, in our society today, it has changed quite a bit. The whole
Yes.
world, as a matter of fact, the whole world has changed. I come from a different background, so I can relate the difference growing up than what it is today. The whole world has changed. Now we're into our pursuit for success.
Mhm.
And again, what is success? Because what may be a success for you is not a success for me. What is success? And right now we're wealthier, we have more stuff, we have more buildings, we have more investment, we have more education, we have more everything. And yet we have we have high suicide. How do we explain it? It tells me there's something wrong. It's not about all that. It's not about all the wealth. It's not about all the money. Because if it's all the money, a lot of people will not be committing suicide. And oftentimes, and yeah, we have to, because everything has gotten so expensive. You living in this big house, you driving these cars, you gotta pay for it, right? And so sometimes you're finding yourself working 2, 3 jobs to meet up what you have to do. And I don't know what is the answer. I don't know. It almost seems to me we're just pedaling. That's what we're doing.
Mhm.
We just barely going by, just barely getting by, just pedaling, pedaling, and until one day we cannot pedal no more. And you brought up a good point about talking. I love technology. I love technology for what it can do. But I think that technology also has the deep secret part of technology is that it has gotten people away from people. Now you can pick up a phone and text somebody, how are you doing? But you're not feeling how they do it. You're not looking at their face. But also, you can actually get on Skype or get on anything and look at their face and how it feels. But oftentimes, we just don't have the time, including myself, right?
Mhm.
We just don't have the time anymore to really figure out how somebody else is doing.
Mhm.
And even when we're asking as a norm, not because we truly, truly care. We ask him as a norm, not because we truly, truly care. Why? Because sometimes you don't even have the time to sit and listen. It may take hours for that person to tell you what's wrong. Maybe
Mhm.
you are that person that could make a difference, right? But we don't have the time. We don't have the time.
Well,
And
this is
we can,
true. Unfortunately, when someone starts to respond and let you know how they feel, we're already off in our own head thinking about how we're going to answer that question and what I have to do 5 minutes from now and how long is this going to take. And so if I'm talking to you and I sense that you're not really there, I'll kind of drift off and I won't really say the things that I may need to say because I don't think you're really interested. And I go back to my little room, and I sit there and I start thinking about all the negative things, because that's what happens when you become depressed, when anxiety set in. All the negative stuff comes out, and it just compounds itself by think, yeah, I nobody cares about me. I've got this going on in my life, but nobody seems to be interested in finding out what's happening with me. And as we build, we just add more stuff to it. And unfortunately, for some people, it gets to be too much, and they decide to just give it all up. And that's too bad, because you're right. When someone cut their life short, we all lose. We have no idea what that person could have contributed to society had they stuck around. So we're all sort of the blame when things like that happen, because we don't reach out. We don't stop to listen. We're just too busy running.
And I think I don't know why I am so affected this time around. I mean, people committed suicide. There are people that I work with. People, this is not the first time, but for whatever reason, I just take it so personal this time, because it shouldn't have to be. And we're not even talking about adults. We're talking about children. We're talking about teenagers. And sometimes you'll be saying, why would a teenager commit suicide? Why? I mean, they don't have any responsibility. And then you realize, yes, sometimes it really is, sometimes it's chemical imbalance in the body, right? And where they're taking the medication. Even the medication itself has side effects. Even the medication itself has side effects that can.
This is true.
Yes.
But also, I think when you don't have anyone that you can speak to, it creates some chemical imbalance. Uh, and if you already have a little bit of a problem, it just may make it even worse. You know, I'm sorry to say, I remember when my son passed away, and for me that was a really rough time, because he was my firstborn, and he had so much life, and he had these plans for all the things that he wanted to do, and I just it hurt. It was like somebody had reached in there and punched a hole in my heart when I lost him. But no one understood, because everybody saw me as someone who was strong, who was capable, who could handle it. And no one understood what was happening inside of me. I became resentful because no one knew. Now, granted, part of it is my fault too. I could have grabbed somebody and say, listen, I need to talk. I didn't do that, because I had a reputation of being strong, that others could depend on me. So I kept it to myself. But I was hurting, and the more I hurt, the more depressed I became. And I am convinced that there are two reasons why I did not succumb. One is because I had other children that needed me, and the other is because I believe in God, and I didn't think He would want me to check out because I had lost my son. He gave me my son as a gift, and then He called him back home when he had done the things he felt he was sent here to do. And I have to be happy with that. But it took months, wasn't weeks, it took months for me to get to that point, because as I say, it left a big hole, and I didn't talk to anyone because there was no one for me to talk to. I wasn't going to go to a counselor. I didn't think they would really understand, and so I just held things in. And the result is you see a bigger me today. I'm twice the size I was at that time. But yeah, we need to take the time to listen when someone is hurting. And when we sense someone needs to talk, let them talk.
But I want to bring up another point you just mentioned right now. You talked about the fact that in your case, you kind of knew what was going on. but you weren't willing to talk to a counselor. And I think that's also part of it, because it's not just one thing. It's also part of it that even when people know what's going on, they don't want to seek help. And they don't want to seek help for the most part. It's a label. It's a label to say someone is suffering from mental illness. It's label to say somebody is suffering from depression. It's a label to say somebody is suffering from anxiety. And for the most part, people want to maintain their image, and they'll rather suffer than seeking help. And how often have you seen the run-ins with the police, shooting people because of when those individuals have mental illness, right? We hear it every time in the news. These are people lost in the world, lost, and oftentimes they are lost for life. Mm-hmm. You know, this issue of mental illness, and sometimes I think everybody in a way has a part to play. From the hospital, from the people doing the research, from the government, everybody has a part to play in their own little way. But for the most part, some of these things that we go through can be helped. And it can be helped by really talking to someone else. But I have to say, like you mentioned earlier, talking to a trusted person, because one of the reasons people don't want to talk about it, because by the time they finish, they have no idea where it's going to end up. But you know what? I'll talk about it and be alive. I don't care where it ends up. If I will talk about it and be alive, I'd rather be alive and not have to worry about where it's going to end up. If that's the reason that I'm going to get help, I will talk about it. Even children, sometimes they are not even being diagnosed that they have some problem. And some of them will go on, and we in a society we've learned to say, oh, that's how they do, or that's how they do, when actually something is going on. And it's almost like if you know people are going to say you're bad, oh, you're going to continue on that route. Why even get better? Because people already classify you as being bad, right? Mental illness, depression, it's not a taboo. It really is not a taboo. And people, if you are listening to this, and I hope you are listening or share this, that there are so many helps out there. There's so many help out there. A lot of help. Whether you're seeking help through homeotherapy, doctors, or through medical doctors, there are help out there. There's herbs, there's essential oil. There's just a lot of help out there. Do your research. Talk to someone. There's a lot of ways out there to feel better, right? And I know some of them are clinical. Depression, anxiety. Some are clinical. Get diagnosed, find out what's going on. But some of them are temporary, like in my own case. It's just, I didn't expect this to happen, and it just wasn't the last thing. It wasn't the thing I was expecting at that particular time. So I lost it. I went through that mourning for 18 months. That's temporary. But I also know that someone could have gone through that, and if it wasn't treated, it will go on forever and ever and ever. I've heard people, I've actually had a friend that lost a daughter back in 2001. Lost a daughter back in 2001 and was still in mourning for the daughter until she died in 2012. Until she died in 2012, right?
When you say that she passed in 2001 and they let her go finally in 2012?
Correct. What? You know what? You brought up a point. You brought up a point I really didn't think about. She was simply existing. And I think in her own case, she sought some help, but the help wasn't enough emotionally. She sought medical help, but the medical help wasn't enough emotionally, because also there is so much you can do. You can't drag the person out of the house. You can only do so much too. But when she passed away, everybody's like, everybody lost. Everybody lost. And I think sometimes maybe intervention, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking maybe there may be a need for intervention, because I know that some of them fight. They don't want you to diagnose them as having mental illness. Some people fight about it, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And
Well, I wouldn't call depression a mental illness, but if you
it's not
don't take care of it, it could certainly become that.
correct.
You know, I think one of the things that helped me, I was just thinking about this. I've completely forgotten about it. Uh, During that time when I was trying to get over my losing my son, there was a woman I met, and we were talking, and I found out that she had lost her son,
Mm.
and she was very distraught, and she couldn't understand why she had lost her son when it took them so long to have one. They didn't think they could have a child. They prayed and prayed, and they finally had a child. And then at the age of 28, he died of cancer. And as I listened to her story, what came to me was that she had been given a gift. She had prayed for us to have a child, and she had received the gift. But the thing of it is, and in my case as well, and that sort of helped me. As she talked, I thought she had a gift, and the Lord never tells us how long we can keep something. He just gives it to us, and then when it's time for it to come back home, He takes it. And I tried to explain that to her in a way so that it wouldn't be hurtful or condescending or anything like that, because I was going through my own thing. Um, but she didn't see it. She didn't accept that. I thought to myself that she had been blessed to have 28 years that she didn't think she would have, and that made me think about my own child. I had him for 23 years, and I was surprised when I found myself carrying him. So, God gives you gifts, but He never says He's going to let that gift stay there forever. You know?
Yeah,
So,
as we talk about this, I'm thinking about, if people are listening now, what would they really want to know? What would they want to know? If someone that is listening to us right now, would they want to know if they have either have depression or suicidal thoughts, or they have anxiety, or even they know somebody, a family friend, a co-worker who has such. The key really here is, number one, sometimes you don't recognize it. Maybe your friends do. When you start feeling out of norm, how you normally feel, just know that something is going on, right? And tell somebody. Tell a trusted friend, a trusted family, somebody, a confidant. Tell somebody, because if it goes untreated, it can go from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 to a stage of no return. But sometimes some of them, whatever the case may be, can be treated if you begin on time. Some, not all of them, right?
yeah.
And because sometimes, and I'm thinking about things, because I began to talk to some people, I'm thinking about, it's not just clinic, something can happen to you so traumatic in life, right? Something in life can happen so traumatic as whatever that may be, like in my own case and in your own case, is losing somebody. But it may even be relationship, and we don't talk about it a lot. It can be relationship, letting go of somebody you thought you're going to spend the rest of your life with, and here is that person gone. It could be on both sides, right? And oftentimes, especially for men, because I think as a society we've come to believe that men in general are tough and they're supposed to handle things emotionally more than women, and that's not always the case. I know for women, we tend to verbalize, we talk, we say it all, right? And that's how women release their whatever that is going on. For men, they don't talk. And some of them can't even tell another. Some of them can't even tell another male, right? I can come to you
No,
and
because to them that would make them appear weak.
that will
And a
make them
man does not want to appear weak, especially in front of his woman,
okay.
because he's supposed to be the provider, the protector. So he doesn't want to let anyone know that he's got a problem that may be making him appear weaker, and he can't give in to that. And unfortunately, um, he should be able to have a trusted friend, a wife that you can talk to, um, or get professional help, or get religious help. We all need it, and it's a thing that even today I still fight it, because I'm supposed to be tough and strong. I'm not supposed to have weaknesses, and and it's difficult for me to admit when those weaknesses happen. I just want to hold on to them, and it's not good. It is not good. Now that I'm older, I can see when my attitude and actions start to change, because I'm holding on to things rather than letting it go.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. I mean, myself, the older I get, the more mellow I get, and realize that hey, I'm just a human. I'm just crying is not really a sign of weakness. It's not. And in case of men, that hey, just shed tears. Just it doesn't mean you're weak as a man. It just means that there's some things that you have to release, and it's okay
Hmm.
to talk to another man. I'm not a man, so I don't know how a man feels talking to another man of something like, but they can definitely have a confidant they can talk to.
But even a man should be able to talk to his woman, his wife, his girlfriend. If she truly loves him, she should be able to accept that there are times when he needs her to listen. He needs her to just be there and listen to what he has to say, even if she doesn't have uh, the right answer, but just knowing that she's listening and not judging him. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not making him feel bad because he's going through whatever it is that he's going through. And that can be a big help too. Sometimes that might be even better help.
So we want the first thing is really get diagnosed, recognize what's going on, then you begin to seek for help, the type of help
Absolutely.
that you need. And try, being by yourself doesn't make it any better. Being by yourself, and oftentimes you find that people that have some type of issues, emotional issues, are often by themselves. And I'm not saying in no way that all loners are,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I find that sometimes we medicate ourselves a lot to cover the track. We medicate ourselves through perhaps working overtime, working all the time. That's part of it. We medicate
Mhm.
ourselves through alcohol. We medicate ourselves through we medicate ourselves through drugs. We medicate ourselves through it can be anything, right? We medicate
Absolutely. Just doing for everybody else except for ourselves. Uh,
yeah, we
Anything
medicate
that will cover it up, and okay, I don't have time to worry about this. I've got to do this for so and so. I promised I'm going to take care of this, and I better do it. So you're right. We find all kind of ways to medicate ourselves and not let others know what's going on, because we don't want to appear weak. Well, sometimes we're as bad as the men, but yeah, the men definitely, because that's from, I can't say so much today, but during the time when I was growing up, a man was supposed to be a man and show no weakness.
Yeah, and really, if you have somebody that may be suffering from this,
Mhm.
ask about it, and hopefully they can tell you so that you can begin to help that person. Talking, I can't even, there's nothing like talking. Talking sometimes can get your mind out of something, out of those, disrupt the thoughts that you are having in your mind, those negative thoughts, those thoughts that is not going to lead you anywhere. Talking, positive talking can get you out of it. If you need clinical help, go get clinical help, whatever help that you need. But most importantly, do your research. Find out about what you need to do so that your friends and loved one can continue to enjoy you, so that you don't rob all of us the beauty of who you are created to be. So I hope that as you watch this, as you share this, as you listen to this, that this video will make an impact and bless someone else. That's what I want this video to do, that it make an impact and bless someone else, that we don't have to live in pain. We don't have to live in pain. And sometimes people do, and it results to a negative thing, like just what happened and what happens every time. But do you have any final thoughts on this before we depart?
Just that, excuse me, just that we're not alone. It may appear that way because of technology, but we're not alone. And um, I learned something this week uh, because I had something that was going on in my life, and I kind of just shut down and didn't think about there might be somebody else out there that needed to hear from me. And so I learned something, that you've got to open yourself up, and you've got to be there for others when they need you. And there's no reason for us to be holding these things in. You know, doesn't matter how strong you are. It's okay to have some weaknesses. Just makes you human. And as Christy say, there's so much you still have to offer for society, for yourself. Don't leave without fulfilling your obligations. The graveyard is full of people who have taken with them probably the cure for cancer, probably the cure for heart disease, but we won't know because they chose to leave us too soon. Don't you be one of those. We need you.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm not sure why this affected me so much this time around. People commit suicide every single time. I'm not sure why I am affected by this one so much so, because listen, talk to someone, you know. And I was talking to a friend, was yesterday, and he was talking, even a divorce, depending on the type of divorce, can be that brutal. Some marriages never doesn't have to take place in the first place, but anyway, even some divorce can be brutal. You know, what you can hold in so much, maybe somebody else cannot hold in so much. Even the breakup from little kids at school can be so much, where kids are wanting to just, there's no purpose for me to live. You don't know what's going on in that person's life. And don't assume that we have all this makeup and clothes, that everything is okay. It is not okay. It really is not. We're doing nothing but just pedaling along. So I want you, if you are watching, take care of yourself, take care of your loved one, take care of friends, and don't forget that you have only one life to live. And before we depart, Lawana, Do you have any way that people can contact you if they want to contact you?
Yes, but before I say that, I just want to thank you, Christy, for doing this show, because this is a very important message, and I hope that it does help someone out there. I really appreciate it, and thank you for including me to be a part of it. And for those of you who would like to know about my radio show, it's a weekly show, Mondays at 9:30 California time, on the Amazing Women of Power .com. You go on there and just click on that little flashing arrow. You can plug right into the show. We're a motivational show, and would love to hear from you. If there's something that you'd like to hear about that we don't cover, please email me at Lawana at lawanaspeaks.com and let me know what you would like me to have on that show. We will be speaking on, we will speak with authors who are written their books and tell us how they did it. And we'll be speaking with people who are in business, especially those who are still fairly new to business, so that they can help someone who is just now starting. How did you get to where you're at now? Because it is a struggle, but it can be done.
All right,
Thank you,
audience.
Christy.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for really coming in as a guest today. I appreciate you. And in every time I call on you, I know I can always see that you're here. So I appreciate you every time. Thanks for being a friend and for being a guest today. So, audience, listen, I know that loneliness doesn't mean that you are alone, but you don't have to do life by yourself. You don't have to do life by yourself. That is the reason God created us to live not by ourselves with each other, to talk not by ourselves with each other, to do things not by ourselves with each other. Listen, you don't have to do life alone. By the way, it's not fun doing life alone. I know we're women and we love to hang out, but so is everybody. Really, oftentimes you'll find out that the answer you're looking for, sometimes it's within you, and sometimes you can always find the answer by reaching out and really touching somebody else and making a difference and living. And so I want to remind you of Women's Coaching Association that I have. It's really a place for women coaches to get together, women professional coaches to get together in a non-competitive atmosphere to really support and help one another thrive in life and in business. And so if you would love to be a part of it, and I would love for you to be a part of it, because it's really all about us, about women, about getting together. I want you to go to womenscoachingassociation.com. Again, womenscoachingassociation.com and sign up to be a member today. Until next time, take care and bye-bye. Bye, Lawana.
Bye, Christy.
Bye, everybody.